Maggie. You gave my son free food. Maggie blinked in surprise at the towering stranger on her doorstep. His sharp gray eyes locked onto her as rain dripped from his tailored coat onto her frayed welcome mat. His voice carried a quiet intensity. Maggie, calmly. What do you mean? She gripped the doorframe, knuckles whitening. The man studied her, then spun a small, rusted toy car on her wobbly hallway table, a relic from her son's childhood. Man, low, deliberate. I don't believe in charity, but I believe in settling debts, and whether you know it or not, I owe you. Maggie glanced at the toy car, then back at him. Who was he? And why did the air suddenly crackle with the weight of unspoken history? Rain streaked the grimy window of the Haven Street diner, wedged between a pawnshop and a laundromat in downtown Chicago. Inside, the scent of greasy bacon and stale coffee mingled with the murmur of late-night regulars. Maggie Harper wiped her, hands on her stained apron, a strand of chestnut hair escaping her messy bun. At 28, exhaustion clung to her like a second skin, yet warmth still lit her hazel eyes. She lived 3 blocks away in a cramped studio, often skipping meals to slip dollar bills to the elderly man in booth 3 or free coffee to the night shift. Single mom. Poverty had raised her. Her grandmother's voice echoed in her bones. Kindness is the only currency that never expires. Tonight, the diner was quiet. A trucker nursed a beer. A student hunched over a laptop. Then Maggie saw him, a small figure huddled outside. A boy no older than 8 sat in a wheelchair. His threadbare jacket hung loose, dark hair plastered to his forehead as he fidgeted with a tattered blanket. Maggie, softly, "Hey, sweetie. You can't stay out here." She rushed into the rain, towel in hand. The boy looked up, blue eyes wide, wary. Tommy, whispering, "I'm waiting for someone." The street stood empty. Maggie, gentle, "Come inside. It's warm, and I've got something special for you." She wheeled him to a corner booth, draped the towel over his shoulders, and vanished into the kitchen. Minutes later, she returned with a grilled cheese sandwich, golden and oozing, and tomato soup. Maggie, smiling, "On the house, dig in, kiddo." Tommy's grin widened as cheese stretched into gooey strings. Best ever. They talked superheroes, and favorite colors, the world shrinking to the diner's glow. Across the street, a black Bentley idled in the shadows. Inside, Victor Grayson, 45, CEO of Grayson Tech, Billionaire, watched, his steel gray eyes unblinking. Victor, to himself. She gave him food. No one gives anything for free. His son Tommy wasn't supposed to be here. The nurse had called in sick, forcing Victor to drag the boy to a last-minute investor call. He'd told Tommy to wait in the car. But Tommy had wheeled himself to the diner and into Maggie's orbit. Victor's jaw tightened as he watched Maggie kneel beside Tommy, her laughter cutting through the rain. His chest ached, a foreign sensation for a man who traded empathy for Excel sheets. Victor, murmuring, "Who are you?" He stepped out, rain slicking his silver hair, and crossed the street. Maggie, startled, "Can I help you, sir?" Victor loomed in the doorway, his Armani coat dripping onto linoleum. Victor, coldly, "You fed my son." Maggie, defensive. He was alone, hungry. Victor, snapping, "I don't need your pity." Maggie, stepping closer. "Pity? That boy's been sitting outside for an hour. Where were you?" Silence. The trucker and student glanced over. Victor's eye facade faltered. Tommy's voice cut through. Tommy, excited, "Dad, Maggie makes superhero sandwiches, look." Victor stared at his son's grin, a sight rarer than his stock options. Victor, quietly, "Thank you." Maggie, crossing arms, "Don't thank me. Be there. He deserves more than a Bentley and a babysitter." Victor flinched. For the first time in decades, someone had dared to name his failure. Final scene. Victor returns the next day, alone. Maggie's diner is closed, a for lease sign in the window. On the counter, a note. Note: kindness isn't a debt. It's a choice. Maggie. Victor tucks the note into his wallet next to Tommy's crayon drawing of a grilled cheese superhero. Victor pulled out his cell phone and dialed. Clara, get to Haven Street Diner immediately. No suits, no heels, jeans and a hoodie. I need you here in 20 minutes. Clara, ever efficient, didn't ask questions. On my way, sir. Victor leaned back, his mind racing. For years he'd built walls around his empire, his heart, his son. Tommy's rare neuromuscular disease had turned him into a man obsessed with control. He'd hired elite doctors, top-tier nurses, yet no fortune could buy the raw humanity he'd just witnessed through the diner window. Who was this woman? And why did she care? 30 minutes later, Clara entered the diner, blonde hair tucked under a faded cap. She spotted Tommy still chatting with Maggie, who handed him a glass of milk. Clara, forced smile. Hey Tommy, time to go. Your ride's waiting. Tommy, pouting. Can I finish first? Maggie sized Clara up, protective instinct flaring. You know him? Clara, nodding. His aunt. Here to pick him up. Maggie hesitated, then softened. All right, sweetie, take care. She handed Tommy a napkin and a cookie from the counter. Tommy, beaming. Thanks, Maggie. You're the best. Clara wheeled him outside, pulse quickening, as they crossed the rain-slick street to the Bentley. Victor stepped out, his imposing frame softening as he knelt beside Tommy. Victor, gentle. Have fun in there, champ? Tommy, excited. Maggie's so nice. She said kindness doesn't cost anything. Victor's throat tightened. Kindness. In a world where everything had a price, this stranger had given his son something priceless. He buckled Tommy into the car, masking his turmoil. Clara, get me her file. Everything. The next morning, in his Lake Michigan penthouse, Victor stared at Clara's report. Margaret Maggie Harper, 28, no family. No degree, 5 years at Haven Street Diner, barely makes rent. Victor, muttering, gives from nothing. Why? He grabbed his coat. Clara, surprised. Sir, now? Maggie opened her apartment door, squinting at the figure filling her threshold. Victor. Margaret Harper, we need to talk. Maggie, wary. Who are you? Victor. Victor Grayson. He paused, letting the name linger. When her confusion held, he added, Tommy's father. May I come in? She stepped aside. His presence swallowed her tiny living room. No TV, a thrifted armchair, library books stacked like a fortress. Victor, softly. You live, simply. Maggie, crossing arms. It's enough. What's going on here? Victor turned to her, his gaze penetrating. Yesterday you helped a boy in a wheelchair. You fed him, kept him warm. Maggie's eyes widened. Tommy is your son? Oh no. He was just sitting there, and I couldn't leave him in the rain. Is he doing okay? He's doing well, Victor said, his voice softening. Better than good, thanks to you. He paused. He told me what you did, that you refused money, treated him like he mattered. That wasn't special, just a sandwich. Maggie shrugged. It wasn't nothing to me, Victor said firmly. He grabbed his coat, pulled out an envelope, and slid it across the table. I want you to work for me. At Grayson Technologies. A real job. 6-figure salary, benefits, everything. Maggie stared at the envelope, then back at him. Her mouth fell open. This is a joke, right? I'm a waitress. I don't know the first thing about tech or whatever you do. I don't need a tech genius, Victor said. I need someone with a heart like yours. Someone who does the right thing when no one's watching. That's rarer than you think. She shook her head, turning away. This is insane. Why me? Because you saw my son. Not my money, not my name. Victor said quietly, emotion threading his voice. Do you know how few people do that? My company's full of sharks, Maggie. I need someone I can trust. Her hands trembled as she opened the envelope. Inside was a contract, her name printed in bold. She looked up at him, tears welling. "I don't know what to say." "Say yes," Victor replied. "But on one condition, never stop being kind, no matter what." Maggie said yes, but her journey had only just begun. Her first day at Grayson Technologies was a whirlwind. Glass offices, endless meetings, whispers from colleagues wondering why Victor had hired a waitress. Some called it charity, others suspected an agenda. Then a month later, everything shifted. Clara approached her desk, pale. "Maggie, we have a problem. Someone's leaking company secrets, sensitive data. Victor's furious, and he thinks it might be you." Maggie's stomach dropped. "Me? I barely understand half of what happens here. Why would I do that?" "He doesn't want to believe it," Clara whispered. "But someone saw you with a man from a rival firm at a diner last week. It looks bad." Maggie remembered. A regular from Haven Street had stopped by to ask about her new job. She'd thought nothing of it. Now, it might cost her everything. That evening, Victor called her into his office. His expression was unreadable. "Maggie, I trusted you. Tell me I wasn't wrong." "I swear, Victor," she said, voice shaking. "I'd never betray you, or Tommy. I don't know who's behind this, but it's not me." He studied her for a long moment, then a nod. "I believe you, but we need to find the real culprit." Together they dug through records, traced the leaks, and uncovered the truth. A senior employee, jealous of Maggie, had used her as a scapegoat to cover his own illegal deals. With proof in hand, Victor fired him on the spot. His trust in Maggie was cemented. Years later, Maggie sat at Tommy's high school graduation party. Now vice president of Grayson Technologies, she watched as he beamed from his wheelchair on stage. Her days as a waitress felt like another life, but she'd kept her promise. She'd founded a charity in Tommy's name, feeding hungry kids across Chicago, because Maggie had proven something. Kindness could build an empire.